Just for context, we both play soccer together. I mean, we both watch soccer. I mean, I'm usually the vehicle because I'm a pretty big fan, and soccer is probably my, the one thing I like to talk about the most besides my actual career stuff. So yeah, we're not like expert analysts, but we do like the game, and we partake enough to have a meaningful
Yeah,
conversation
yeah,
about it. So yeah, we'll just share our thoughts on the draw.
yeah.
So yeah, you tell me the
Yeah. Oh, we'll start with what I see in front of me. So I'll just read out the matchup, Andy. You start riffing, and any bit of extra input I have, I'll chime in. But it looks like the first input is actually PSG versus Liverpool initially.
that's a big one. Liverpool started the season very strong, and we make a point. You and I, we watch a lot of Liverpool games. Obviously, Salah's having an exceptional season. Now they're kind of in troubled. I mean, they're getting into murky waters. I mean, they tied against the Villa. So and PSG obviously they play in a very easy league. So and they're very incentivized. They really want the Champions League. So that's an exciting match. We are going to watch Liverpool City tomorrow, so we're recording this before that happens. But this is definitely one of the better matchups, and it's a tough side of the draw. I mean, selfishly, I ultimately would love to see Real Madrid play Liverpool in the Champions League at some point as a
Mm,
fan.
yeah, I agree
Um,
with that.
but yeah, I mean, it's a big one, and there's Ballon d'Or implications. I think that there's some top players playing across the leagues right now, like obviously Mbappe, Lewandowski, Rafinha, Salah being one of them. And I think the winner of the Champions League will play a big role in determining the Ballon d'Or winner. So this matchup is very spicy from that perspective.
Yeah,
And
it's true.
obviously Dembele's having a great season, so let's,
Yeah,
let's,
yeah,
let's see what
he's
he can
picked
do.
it up a lot. He's had a history of poor finishing, and he's scoring some filthy goals lately. He's a lot more consistent with that, so it's very interesting.
Yeah,
And yeah, again, from a bit more of a casual perspective, I don't watch as many games as Andy, but I do watch a lot these days. I watch a lot of highlights, and I know highlights don't tell you the whole story, but you can clearly tell PSG's young offense with Barcola as well. Barcola is a special talent, and Brest, I guess, is a extremely easy opponent compared to the rest of the opponents that these guys have played. But um, I mean, they're
destroying.
firing. They have the potential to score goals. Like they're creative. Between Dembele and Barcola, like the
Kvaratskhelia
creativity
now too.
and Kvara, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and who's their starting striker right now?
Yeah, I mean, I
You
feel like
know?
they play that guy Desiree, the younger kid Desiree Doué there. Sometimes
Mm,
they have Gonzalo Ramos.
yeah, and he's a pretty good sub.
I think Barcola can play striker.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Barcola's
we'll see.
filthy and very fast.
He's very fun to watch.
Yeah,
And Dembele, I mean, obviously he's top scorer in League One, and he's taking the mantle well. It's gonna be interesting, right? I mean, I gotta. I mean, I would like Liverpool to win. PSG, all good. Whatever they get up to, but
yeah,
I would say I want Liverpool to win this.
sure.
And
Most
also because I want
people
to see them play Madrid.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Most people, if as far as like neutral fans, have probably more interest in Liverpool advancing. I think most people would agree with that.
Yep.
But if in the unlikely event that PSG somehow beat these odds and like somehow upset Liverpool, they become very interesting to watch as well. It's very
Yep.
unlikely. I wonder what the betting odds are. Liverpool must be very heavily favored, but in all likelihood they'll win. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see that. That's one. I mean, I'll just say one annoying thing, and this will just come up once, is that they play all the matches on the same day now, which is actually extremely annoying for a fan because, like, why not just split them up over 2 days? Because we can only choose one, and generally,
Mm,
we have limited time. I mean, we do other things. We actually care about playing soccer, which means that we also want to be in shape, so we can't just watch a bunch of games all the time.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah,
it's very annoying. UEFA needs to rectify that immediately because
sure.
I don't want to have to choose between Liverpool, PSG, and Atletico, Real Madrid, which I'm sure we can talk. We might talk about that one next. Yeah, so that's an annoyance,
No,
but
that's
it's a
that's
story for another
interesting.
day.
I wonder. I haven't thought through this. If there's like, I know why historically why in these competitions they play certain games at the same time to avoid collusion, I guess, basically. But and I
I
haven't
still
thought
think it's
through this,
relevant for the
so
stage.
you don't think it's yeah, because I haven't even thought through
No,
it. So it's like no thought has been put into that. My only assumption would be that that's the reason. So if that's not a valid reason, I don't know why they think that would be a good idea here.
the only explanation I can think of is the simplicity of scheduling. Now it's like a very busy time of the year, and it offers more simplicity for the leagues to organize games to ensure adequate rest,
Oh, okay.
and fair rest for the teams. I mean,
Maybe.
that's the only reason I can think
Okay.
of. If someone
That's
knows the reason, they can comment.
plausible.
Super
Okay.
annoying.
True. What? What did you
Someone
say?
can comment and call us idiots for not knowing the reason.
Yeah,
Like, what
yeah,
is the
yeah.
actual
That's
reason?
fine,
I'm
isn't
sure
it?
someone will be inclined to do that and actually watch this. We
That's
are, yeah.
funny.
There are going to be gaps in our knowledge, like just
Oh yeah,
keep
yeah.
in mind
We're neither of us are
we are
pretending that
moderate
we're
fans.
experts. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I'll go to the next one, which will be, let's
Yep.
say, Club Brugge and Aston Villa. You can I think you could just sort of riff starting for each of these matchups, and I'll chime in too a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Good for Villa. It's going to be really tough for them to make it back to the Champions League. That's the reality. So they're enjoying their run. You know, it, like as a big fan of Serie A, I mean, Marco and I are Italian. I mean, for Atalanta to lose to Bruges is very disappointing. I think it speaks to probably a lack of depth in some of these Serie A squads. But yeah, it's what it is. Hey, good for Bruges. I mean, Bruges has definitely, they've been a higher performing club in Belgium for a while. Um, I can't even say. I mean, they generally do have top talents. Like fun fact, like Lois Openda came through Bruges, so that's kind of cool, right? Openda
Yeah,
plays for
yeah,
Leipzig now.
yeah.
But yeah, that tie for me is kind of whatever. I would expect Villa to win, and I hope they enjoy their run because they earned the right to be in the Champions League. They're probably not going to be back unless they have a great end to the season. So yeah, the party might end for them after this one, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and I guess a couple of things that come to mind. I've been impressed for a few years now, obviously, with Martinez, Aston Villa's goalie. The guy's unreal
Yeah.
and probably kind of underrated. I don't know what people think about him. He might be a little bit of an abrasive personality, but as far as goalkeeping goes, this guy just seems elite to me. Maybe a little bit of what I've heard is, I guess, from people who probably watch more of their games, is that maybe he's not as consistent as one might think. Maybe, I don't know, but when he's at his best, this guy's like insane.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, sometimes I don't watch much Villa, but I've seen enough of Argentina, and I've seen like he's capable of making saves that change games in the way that Courtois does, but it's also tough, right? If your back line, it is Ezri Konza and like whoever else is playing, like I don't Pau something plays for Villa. I should
Okay.
probably know
Yeah,
this better.
yeah. Oh, I
No, it's
think
not
is
the,
it Pau Torres is his name?
Pau Torres. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they was Luca Dini. These are solid players, but this is not it's not a world class back
Yeah,
line.
it's
That's the
not. Yeah,
reality,
it's not
right?
Van Dyke or
Keeper can only do so
Konate,
much.
Saliba, etc. Yeah. And then Club Brugge, they beat Atalanta, right? Who, as a club, again from a casual's perspective, lost. I think they lost a number of their better players, right? I mean, their club got a bit gutted from their Atlanta last year was the only team in the whole campaign to beat Leverkusen. The only right, I think I'm recalling this correctly, right?
Yeah.
Like the only club to figure out Leverkusen who would have otherwise gone an entire year's campaign unbeaten in all competitions, undefeated, unbeaten, either
Yeah.
ties or wins. And that same Atalanta side is not really the same as it is this year. They're much weaker, I think, if you inspect it.
Yeah, I don't recall the incomings, outgoings. Well, I mean, the clearest example is, Lookman scored. I mean, Lookman's having a good season. Atalanta is third in Serie A, so I mean, they're doing well. But Lookman, I think he missed the penalty. The coach called him out. There was this whole thing in the media. I think the coach has since has kind of walked it back,
Okay.
which is interesting stance to take. Yeah, I think Lookman could have owned up to it and said like, yeah, I'm not the taker, but it's tough, right? It's tough with these personalities. I guess he thought he was gonna, thought he was the hot hand, he was gonna score.
Okay.
But yeah, I can't say he's not having a good season. I mean, Atalanta's having a decent season, but they lost the game for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and that's it,
it's
right? They have
funny
to focus on Serie A.
that might be one of more than one example that'll probably happen. Where so maybe their team's not gutted. That's probably an extreme way to phrase it, but I feel like their personnel is not quite the same.
Injured.
Okay.
Yeah, they have some key injuries. I mean, I know Shamaka's out. I mean, Zaniolo, I think they had issues with him. I think he didn't really perform. I mean, they signed Daniele Maldini's son. I don't know if he's done anything yet. Yeah, I mean, I think Scalvini, who was like their great young center back, I think unfortunately he went down with an ACL injury. So I think it's not the transfers that gutted them as much as the injuries.
Okay.
And again, it's the depth, right? Like if you're Inter or your man or clubs from outside, you have these such deep squads that you can deal with it. But I think Serie A squads, when they get past their best lineup, I think it's tough for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. They
I think
don't
it's a
have the
fair
money
statement.
that teams in the
Yeah.
Prem have to be a bit deeper. Like those top four teams in the Prem are probably a
Yeah.
lot deeper. Okay. So the next matchup is right into the spice, probably the spiciest one of all of them, being Real Madrid versus Atletico.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have to thank him. Like, I mean, as like a neutral, like I've been to the in full disclosure, I've been to a Real Madrid game, and like I definitely have a soft spot for Real Madrid, such a special club, and I'm generally a neutral for the most part. But I mean, what Mbappe did, it's hard to root against that. That's just such beautiful football. I mean, Atletico, I mean, Julian Alvarez was an amazing signing. Griezmann always plays well. Like Simeone's son is playing well.
They brought in
It's gonna be tough for
Sorloth as well.
Atletico. Yeah, Sorloth. It's gonna be tough for Atletico. Again, I want a Real Madrid Liverpool matchup as a fan, as a soccer fan. So I mean, I expect that Atletico's having a great year. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the title race. They have the ability over two legs, but history tells us that over two legs, it's likely Real Madrid will come through and will advance.
Yeah,
So
that makes
is what it
sense.
is.
And well, the other interesting thing about this matchup is that this Atleti side is the complexion, from what I understand, is different than the past. Um, I guess their whole style, I think Simeone's entire style is different than what they are known for. As far as
Interesting.
maybe I'm not going to term this properly, but they're historically very defensive, like not exactly maybe parts
That's
of
true.
bust, but very. I think their whole style is a little different, and they're having a lot of success with it. So there's
Mhm.
like a sort of like a wild card factor there, where history may not give us the best, you know,
Yeah, fair
victory.
enough. Well, a player like Julian Alvarez is such a good player, right? That's a
Yeah,
big signing
he's
for them.
elite.
Yeah,
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 he's one of those
he's a
players
special
that's
player.
like Rodrigo, who is like underrated. Like he is
Yeah,
so
that's a good
clinical,
comparison.
elite, and is not like the headline top three player in the world sort of thing, or top three attacker that everyone always talks about. But the
Yeah,
guy is a guy who gets it done and at that level and doesn't get completely acknowledged for it.
yeah.
100%. That's what the type
I
of
think
player that
I think
Alvarez is.
Oblak is playing very well this year as well. I think Oblak has been up. Like I mean, Oblak is obviously a top keeper. What I'm seeing, what I've seen is that he's getting very good match ratings. I don't watch a ton of Atletico games, but when you have a goalkeeper, and there's very few goalies in the world who can actually change a game. Like Courtois obviously stands out as someone who can like literally change the game. The game I watched, he was man of the match, right? So it's pretty epic. But I think Oblak is the kind of keeper that can change a game and win a game for you. So I think the goalkeeping matchup is actually relevant, which is not something I would normally say
True.
about a game.
True,
So
true, true. Yeah, that's interesting. It's gonna be a good one. I would say my favorite current player, if I have one that I sort of identify with, I respect a lot, is Griezmann. The guy's also another world class
hard to not
player
like
that,
him.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, special
I
special
agree.
player. And I'm a bit indifferent of whoever wins, may the best team win. So I'm a bit indifferent like that. But I think
No.
either team that comes out of this is also a front runner in this matchup. If one of them, like if Atleti beats Real Madrid over two legs, they become like one of the leading favorites, I think, automatically, to be honest.
The path, like I mean, just to put things into perspective, and all honesty, Mark, I think we might have to do two episodes for these
Yeah,
legs,
we totally
which I
can.
don't
Yeah.
mind actually. I actually like that. We should do that. But I'm gonna jump to the Barcelona Benfica tie.
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
path Real Madrid has to the final.
Is way
Like let's put
different.
it this way: Real
It's
Madrid just had to
crazy.
take Man City out. They have Atletico next. I believe that then if Arsenal wins their match, they have Arsenal. Okay.
Mhm.
Barcelona got to buy the first round, and fair enough, they earned it. They have
Yeah.
Benfica and then maybe Dortmund. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like,
It's like,
I mean, like
man,
it's fair enough.
the
Like, and
strength of
those are
schedule is
strong games.
completely different.
But
It's
like if
not the same.
Real Madrid wins the Champions League this year, I told you this when I was texting you.
Yeah.
The path they have is so hard that instantly it puts their players, and it's kind of and also they have to go through Liverpool potentially, and I hope they do. It puts their players at a big advantage for Ballon d'Or contention.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry,
It
if you have
makes
to beat
sense. Yeah.
City, Arsenal, and
Yeah.
like Liverpool,
Yeah. Yeah.
Atletico,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
If they win it this year, like good for them. What a
Yeah.
club.
100%. Yeah. They have to go through the gauntlet. That is true. Now we did already touch on, I think Club Brugge and Aston Villa is on that other side. So it may not be a
Yeah,
perfect split, but we'll keep,
no, that's
going
fine.
to see
That's
where we
fine.
end up. But
Yeah.
that's a good idea. We'll see how the timeline plays out here. Um, okay. And I'm going to go back to the other side here for a moment, just because
Yeah.
of the order we've been going in. So we have PSV and Arsenal. Again, start with your thoughts.
Yeah, yeah. Did you see, first of all, did I show you that celebration that I think it was Bakayoko,
I don't
Noah
think.
Lang, and then one of the other players, like the see no evil, hear no evil, speak no
No,
evil
that
celebration.
sounds
That
that
was
sounds great. Yeah,
whole AF. So I get it.
yeah,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
insane.
Okay, I gotta check that out.
That
That's
was,
pretty.
you know what?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I
Good for
think you
them.
gotta see that. For that alone,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
I'm annoyed that I don't know who else. Maybe it was Jordan Teze. I can't remember who else it was in the photo, but I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
PSV. These clubs always have these like exciting players. PSV
yeah,
always has like players coming through. I mean, for us, like for Marco and I have been to a Napoli game. Dries Mertens and Irving Lozano, both of which play for Napoli, came through PSV, so that's
true.
cool. Um, Biggest thing though is Perisic scored in both legs at 36 years old, coming off an
Yeah,
ACL injury. Ivan Perisic is a legend.
yeah,
Um, I mean, look, it's gonna be tough against Arsenal, but Arsenal's got a big list of injury issues, and I'll be watching them
interesting.
play West Ham tonight. I don't know the score of that
Oh,
game, so
okay. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Marino started at striker. So,
I won't give anything away as we've talked about.
yeah,
I won't spoil that. I do think I know the score of that game, and I think you'll be interested watching that game later.
yeah, fair enough. That's
And
exciting.
that might be, yeah. So, anyways, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I think
PSV
it's
can
gonna
play
be a
underdog,
good one.
but I think,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
obviously Arsenal have to be favorites even if they have injuries, but Arsenal I think has proven on a few occasions that they can be beaten by worse sides, right? I
yeah.
think they've lost multiple games to uh teams in the Prem that maybe aren't that strong. If I again casual, I'm pretty confident about that though. I think
They've dropped some points that they shouldn't have
they
dropped.
shouldn't have
There's no
dropped, right?
question. Yeah,
And I don't know. I'll say this. I might have a bit of an idea of some other teams. I really don't know much about PSV, but I feel like these teams they sort of don't get a lot of worldwide attention, so they kind of go under the radar. But the quality of players is still like enough that they can make an upset like that, especially if a team is hurt, like maybe if Arsenal's hurt. So that'll be interesting. But Arsenal again should be favored.
well, look at Juventus. They just beat Juventus, who came off of beating Inter.
True. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's disappointing. For me as a Serie A fan, the idea that Milan, Atalanta, and Juventus all went out to opposition, like with all due respect, I mean, great opposition. That's the joy and the beauty of the Champions League. But this is opposition they should be able to conquer. Like
Sure.
you got to think Juventus can beat PSV over two legs.
Yeah.
You know,
But then it
and
goes to show you, is it, that Serie A, these teams are just not up to par, or are these other teams just not getting enough credit for how good they are and that they, on any given day, they actually are capable of beating very good teams, you know?
it's probably a combination of factors. But I'm sure, yeah. I mean,
Well, this
it's
round
tough.
will be interesting because again, just recapping for a sec, you got Club Brugge playing Aston Villa, and now we're talking about PSV versus Arsenal. If either one of them upset them, then it's like,
Yeah.
does that tell you more about that team, in those leagues?
Yeah, and also these smaller clubs, I think part of it, I mean, anything can happen over two games over a game. That's the joy of the sport, right? I mean, we play, we know we've been on the wrong side of games that we should have won at whatever level we play at. It's all good. But I think also these smaller clubs, I mean, the intensity week to week is not as high in their games necessarily, right? I
Yeah.
mean, PSV's goal difference in their league was probably like 40. You know what I mean? They're winning, even though they're second behind Ajax right now, and there's actually a legit title race in the Dutch league. So that's great to see.
Hmm.
I mean, they're not going to war every week in the same way that some other teams are. And obviously they're very motivated when they come to the
Yeah.
Champions League, right? That's for them, it's a marquee.
Yeah.
Like, Juventus has to play Milan, Roma, Napoli, Inter, Fiorentina, Atalanta, and
Yeah.
PSV. Like, okay, they play Feyenoord and Ajax, and those are decently big games, but
Yeah.
there's not as many wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's part of it
So
as
it's a
well.
double-edged sword. Like on the one hand, these teams in the lower level leagues aren't used to facing the same competition, but on the other hand, they come
They come
10 out
fresh.
of 10 motivated and fresh.
Yeah.
Motivated and fresh. Yeah. Yeah. It's
No.
interesting. Okay, so we'll pivot to Feyenoord and Inter. I don't know if I'm even pronouncing it the way it should truly be pronounced, but Feyenoord and
Might
Inter.
be Feyenoord. Yeah,
Feyenoord.
that's fine. Dutch
I
people.
don't know much about Feyenoord. I don't pay much attention to that league. You know much more about the league than I do. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, Feyenoord made it to the I think it was the Europa League final against Roma, and their coach was Arne Slot, which is Liverpool's coach.
Yeah.
It's funny enough. Right now, I mean, they're in fourth place in the Dutch league. I mean, you know, I couldn't even bear to watch the second leg against Milan, like to see that Milan couldn't win that game at home. You know, it's tough. I mean, Feyenoord's a decent club, and that's where Van Persie came from, as a youth product, which is a fun fact. But you know, top four in the Dutch league, you know, Milan's gonna be able to beat that. I mean, look, Inter has to win that game, but that's not guaranteed, right? That's the reality. But you got to think Inter's going to be able to. It's a favorable tie for Inter. If they could choose a team to play, you got to think Feyenoord having like lost their star striker to Milan, who they beat. You know, you got to figure. But hey, if Feyenoord beats both Milan clubs, makes it the last eight. Good for them. I mean, I know they have a passionate fan base, and then respect. You know.
Yeah, 100%. I don't have much to add to that. It's going to be interesting to see. We'll see what happens. I guess anything can happen.
Inter's carrying the flag for Serie A. I mean, at this point, you know, I mean,
so maybe that gives them more motivation that they, should have.
Yeah, hopefully.
Bayern versus Leverkusen. That's spicy. So go ahead, start up with that.
Hey, that's really spicy. I love that matchup. Bayern dodged the bullet, right? They could have got City or Real Madrid last round. So now they got Celtic, and you know they just barely squeezed. They won in normal time, and they probably would have won extra time.
But it was close.
It was close.
Very close.
But I mean, now they're getting a real test, and hey, it's a perfect game, right? Like right now, I mean, two of the only relevant clubs in the Bundesliga title race. And hey, Leverkusen has a chance to really spoil some stuff, right? We'll see. It's not an easy game. I mean, you know,
I have a question. I haven't pulled up the league standings, right, in the Bundesliga. So what is do you have a guess, even whether or not you actually pull it up or not? Do you have a I guess as to the point differential between them? Like how much ahead? So Bayern is ahead currently, right?
Right now, I think it's like 5 points, but Bayern has Frankfurt tomorrow, and Frankfurt's one of the actual decently performing teams. Although they lost Marmouche, right? So obviously that handicapped them. But Ekatike is playing well. He's scoring.
True.
You know, look, in the Bundesliga, there's not that many teams that are. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful to the league, but we have to be honest.
It's not a deep league.
You know, there's not that many big tests
compared to like the top 2 or 3 leagues.
Yeah, maybe like a purist and a big fan of the league may say something different, and fair enough, I respect that.
Yeah, but I think objectively,
Bayern has a decent test tomorrow. Like Frankfurt could take points off of them. I hope they do, because nobody likes to see a league be ran away with like halfway through or 2/3 way of the season. It's already over.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So Leverkusen's close, but Bayern will have to lose a few games. Leverkusen will have to be nearly perfect, and they had a chance to beat them at home. They only drew. So I mean, Bayern. And I mean, look, you got to think Harry Kane. I mean, Harry Kane's a friggin' legend. He deserves to win a trophy. So from that perspective alone, I hope he gets something this year. I don't think it'll be the Champions League. I think there's too many other better teams. But I think, you know, from that perspective, like I hope that he gets a trophy.
Sure.
I could care less about most of other Bayern. I mean, Davies is Canadian. Love that. But for Harry Kane, he deserves a trophy. The man deserves a trophy.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny. And as far as like the depth of different leagues, I think if someone's being fair, I think you have like one tier, which is the Premier League and La Liga. And then you have the next tier, which is like, you know, in any given order. And even between Premier League and La Liga, I think different people could make an argument that one of them is actually deeper or stronger than the other. Maybe more people would say it's the Premier League. I bet people can make very good arguments that it's La Liga, especially as far as like technical skill. Anyways, you have those two in their own sort of category as like a 1A, 1B. And then you have like a few other leagues. And yeah, the Bundesliga, at least from a casual's perspective, filthy casual, is not as deep as I don't think there's a way anyone could argue that they're even remotely as deep as those other two leagues. It's pretty simple, I think.
It's a fun, it's a fun conversation to have. I like to make these. I'd like to do these micro analyses again, just as like someone who loves the game. Like I'm not gonna be give a perfect review of all aspects. But you look at Dortmund now. Dortmund, well, they won today, really big. They're 10 points away from fourth place, so they're gonna have to have a perfect end of the season to get back to the Champions League. They have I forget who they have in the next round. of the Champions League. But I guess we'll talk about it.
Lille.
Lille. Okay, Jonathan David, they're Canadian. That's not an easy matchup, but it's easier than Real Madrid, let's be honest. So I mean, Garassi's scored 4 today. He's top goal scorer in the Champions League right now.
Yeah.
Bino Giddens is very fun to watch. Jamie Giddens, I guess, is what he's going by the single last name now. Adeyemi, I like. You know what I mean? I'm a fan of Adeyemi.
Yeah.
So
I got some great players.
I think Dortmund, like it's tough, right? Like they have, I think it's tough for these teams to do well in both competitions. That's the reality.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. In summary, the last thing I'll say about this matchup is I'm a fan. I'm not a real fan of Leverkusen, but I'm a big fan of what they did last year. I think that's so special what a Cinderella story from a team that is historically not a winning team in terms of their league or anything else at all. To do what they did, like one game away from like basically I would say a perfect year. I'm rooting for them. It's almost like an underdog story. I'm rooting for them. If I had to pick one of the two in this matchup, I'd be much more interested in seeing Leverkusen advance. And like you said, I know you have a soft spot for Kane. In all likelihood, doesn't matter if they advance, they're not winning this competition in all likelihood. Anyways, I think we'll
that side of the draw is easier though. I think that's the thing, is in their favor. Like, sure, I think
for sure.
I can't. Yeah, and we have more matches to talk about it. And I don't know if we're at the halfway through the matchups.
We're 6 out of 8 after this. Yeah.
We're 6 out of 8. Okay, cool. Okay, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about 2 more. But they have an easier draw. They can make the final. I mean, but again, when you have the Real Madrids, the Liverpools of the world, I just think it's tough, right? Even the Arsenal, it's just a level above.
Arsenal, Barcelona, etc.
Okay,
so you already elaborated a bit on Dortmund versus Lille. Let's reopen that for a bit, and we will, I think, try to finish this in about 5 minutes between the last 2 matchups here. So yeah.
Hey, if Jonathan David scores 2, as a Jonathan David's having a great season. I hope he goes to a big club next year. And then Lille's a great club, and he served them very well. But it's tough in the French league. I mean, the fact that they won a league, it's like Lille winning the French league is basically it's somewhat similar, I think, to Leverkusen winning the Bundesliga. Although maybe Leverkusen may have a slightly richer history. I mean, Michael Ballack, for example, played for Leverkusen. Fun fact, Danny Carvajal went on loan at Leverkusen for a year before he established himself at Real Madrid.
Interesting.
So that's something I do know. Arturo Vidal played for Leverkusen. But yeah, anyway.
That's cool.
Look, for Jonathan David's sake, I like Dortmund as a club. For Jonathan David's sake, I don't care who advances. I think they're both going to be underdogs anyway.
Yeah. Fair enough. And Dortmund did pretty well last year in the Champions League, right? I mean, they've proven that they've been able to go pretty far. So you know what? They might still have that dog in them.
Grassi's doing great work.
He's a special player, man. He's a special striker.
He's got 28 goals in 33 games.
Yeah.
And a team that is generally not performing that well this year, right? They're 10 points off 4th place in the Bundesliga. So
yeah, true. Cool. So I think we can pivot to the last matchup in this round of 16, which is Benfica versus Barcelona. They did play each other already, but I'll let you.
Did you see the highlights of that game?
Yeah. It was a pretty crazy game. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's like, as a fan, I mean, Benfica I know is a well-supported club, so I respect that. Di Maria, by the way, is very close to the all-time top assister in the Champions League.
That's pretty
so
crazy.
If he squeezes a few assists in, he could actually be the top assister. I think Ronaldo has 42, he has 41. Wow. So if he squeezes 2 assists in, he could be the all-time assister. And good for him. I mean, his career deserves it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's a special player. I am a fan.
Rafinha, Lamar, Lewandowski, all 3 of them theoretically are in Ballon d'Or contention, contingent on Champions League, individual, and La Liga performances. I mean, for me, Barcelona has to go through as a neutral. It's just with how tight La Liga is. I want to see them. I would love to see Barcelona Dortmund.
Sure.
I think that's the match that I think the neutrals will want to see. And
now, when you say Barcelona Dortmund, just to clarify, and we got about 3 minutes left. So that. Why would you want to see that? That wouldn't be in the quarterfinals, right? That would be, I think, if I'm understanding the matchups correctly, would Barcelona be playing Dortmund, or would they be playing the winner of say like Bayern versus Leverkusen? Or I actually don't even know what the draw. I mean, actually, I could probably deduce it here from this there's a visual I could probably investigate here. Do you already know off the top of your head?
I think the last time I looked at the bracket, and I have an issue with my mouse, I can't pull the bracket, but I think it may be them next. But either way, yeah,
Okay.
if it's Dortmund or Bayern or Leverkusen, any of those three teams versus Barca, let's do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
You know,
But
but
if
hey,
I understand
Benfica did well.
correctly, the sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's right.
Actually, well, we could probably figure this out, though we're on a bit of a time crunch. We could probably literally figure this out without actually looking at we could probably actually guess it if we had a couple more minutes, but we
Yeah,
don't. So we'll not even speculate on that. But either way, to the back to the actual matchup. My speculation would be that a club like Barcelona will be better equipped to figure out what went wrong in that game, that it was such a high scoring game and that it was closer than it probably should have been, and they would be better equipped to perform better over these two legs than Benfica. But Benfica is, I mean, they got some special players. They're not
yeah.
as deep, and they on paper they shouldn't. I mean, they're certainly not favored at all, but
It's a bigger game for them in a way. I mean, obviously it's a very important game for Barcelona, right? But it's a bigger game for Benfica in a way because I mean, to be fair, I mean the Portuguese league is a three-horse title race right now. You know what I mean? Sporting, Porto, and Benfica, and even Braga, they're all going to war. So it's actually a four-horse race. So but it is
interesting.
what it is. The level's lower,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
That's just the nature of it.
Yeah.
But there's things to look out for. Will Di Maria pass the assist mark? I mean, Leva is the third top scorer in the Champions League. How much can he buffer his tally to
Yeah.
hold
Yeah.
off like Haaland and Mbappe
Sure.
surging in the
Yeah.
next
Yeah. Yeah.
years to remain in the top
There's some
three? So there's like some
storylines.
micro
Yeah.
storylines there, but there's
Cool.
Ballon d'Or implications in this game. That's just the reality. I mean,
Yeah.
if Leva like he scores 30 in La Liga and they win the double, I mean he's
Oh,
going to be in
massive. Yeah.
contention.
For sure.
That's the reality. So that's very
For sure.
spicy.
For sure.
But I know we're running out of time. This is an amazing chat.
Yeah.
Can't wait for the next one.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. We've got now. It's just sort of less than a minute. I think that's perfect. So I think we could pretty much wrap it up there. I think this was great. This was fun, and we've
Yeah,
got many
100%.
other topics, both related to football and you know, nutrition, training, all sorts of stuff
Video
that
games.
indirectly relates to football and sports. So I think we'll wrap it up here. This is fun. And all right, we'll
Yeah.
see anyone who is listening to this in the next episode. Hope you join us for another chat.